Hey, what's going on, guys? It is, well, the first weekend in October. As Cam and I talked about on the last show, he is not here with me today, but he will be here in spirit. As I did grab some audio clips, and we'll have a little fun with those later. But Cam being off this week means that the show's going to be a little different this week. It's going to be me. I do not have a guest host with me, unless you count my cat sitting in the studio with me. And if he interrupts later, then we're going to have a talk. You hear me, boy? All right. But I couldn't make things work. The guest that I wanted to have on the show with us today was actually my wife, but she's working this morning, and if I don't have this stuff edited and ready to go for you guys by tomorrow night, then I have failed as a host. So I want to make sure that I get this up for you guys, and I think we're going to have a little bit of fun today. I'm going to keep it a shorter show, so if you guys just hate the monologue, then just stick with me. I'm going to try and keep the show shorter today, half hour, 45 minutes at the most, unless I really start getting windy about things. But first off, I do want to say hey to everybody, because I do have a clip of Cam saying hey to everybody. So
yo, what it do, Mitchell?
That's from a few episodes ago. That was fun. So, anyway, I do want to talk a little bit about iOS 14, because there's a couple of things that have really been, and I just want to say the show today is really going to be the very bare idea of what the show is. This is the stuff I've been thinking about for the last 2 weeks, and I'm just going to kind of air that out and let you know what's going on with me and what I've been thinking about. So, very good. So with iOS 14, I think that one of the things that has really impressed on me over the time that I've had it, and I hope most of you guys have downloaded it by now and are enjoying the app, or the OS. I think the thing that's really catching me most is the simplification or the ability to simplify your interface in iOS 14. When you look at a lot of the features that they've added with the app libraries, with the widgets, it really gives you the ability to take a step back and say, okay, what are the apps on the home screen here that I just never use? The ones that are in the way, and what can I just relegate to the app library, and what do I really need on the screen? And so I've been able to go through and really kind of clean out a lot of the apps that I don't use, and I still got folders, and that's still bothering me because I really kind of want to get rid of the folders, but I'm also limiting the amount of space on the screen that I'm allowing for apps. So there's still a couple folders on the screen, and I'll put the images of my home screen in the show notes. But I'm down to 2 home screens. The first one is the one that the apps that I just need access to. They're my daily driver apps. But the second one is all my entertainment apps, and I've got 3 widgets on that screen, along with a bunch of apps that I use pretty regularly, and I have them kind of categorized by games that I play, and audio and video apps, and different things like that. So when you take a look at the home screens, you'll kind of see what I mean by that. But it's allowed me to really simplify what I have on the home screen. I know Widgetsmith has been on fire for the last week or two here, probably about a week, because I think the iOS 14 just officially released here in the last week, if my memory serves. It's been a wild couple of weeks, so it could have been 2 weeks ago that it released, but I don't know, whatever. But Widgetsmith has really lit the world on fire. And, of course, the clones of Widgetsmith, but underscore David Smith really doing a really nice job getting that updated. I swear he updates that almost every day with new features, new colors, new fonts, different things like that. If you have not seen what he's doing with that, just go to TikTok or YouTube. I don't do TikTok, just for the record. But you go to YouTube and search for Widgetsmith, and you'll find all kinds of really cool ideas of what people are using Widgetsmith to do on their home screens. And because of what it's done, and because of the fact that in Shortcuts you can customize your icons too, which is kind of a hack around, and I think Cam and I are probably going to end up talking about that a lot on the next episode, because he sent me a screenshot of his iPhone and what he's done with Widgetsmith and with the shortcuts. And I'm going to let him talk a little bit more about that in the next episode. Maybe we'll do that in follow-up. But it's kind of interesting. I, for one, I got to kind of reserve my opinion for the most part. But, I kind of like the classic iOS look. I'm not really big on the theming that a lot of people are doing. But I'll let Cam talk a little bit more about that on the next episode. So Carrot Weather, they just keep getting better. I'm sorry, but when it comes down to, and we talked a lot about Carrot Weather on the show here, when it comes down to it, these guys are just killing it. Their widgets are, some of the best widgets available for the iPhone right now, and I had to kick up to tier 3. Ugh. I'm almost a little bit ashamed of myself that I'm paying $25 a year for a weather app, but Carrot does such a nice job of giving the weather in an attractive format, and their widgets are just some of the best widgets available. And if you look at the home screen that I'm posting in the show notes, you'll see that I've got Carrot Weather right up front, right on top, big, the medium widget right up at the top. And I think one of the coolest looking widgets available now, because it's raining here, it is the, for lack of a better term, the dark sky kind of look for it. You know what? I'll take another screenshot because that's not up there right now. And I'll go ahead and throw that in the show notes as well, so that it's not showing the dark sky version of that. But a really cool widget. And the fact that you can stack the widgets. I don't know if this was an Android thing or not, because I know that a lot of the widget stuff is kind of a little bit more of an Android thing, or has been for a long time, but this is just genius. Apple having the ability to, or giving us the ability to stack the widgets, and also giving developers the ability to make multiple widgets of the same size, basically means that I can take something like Carrot and have one aspect of the weather, and then another aspect of the weather, and then another aspect of the weather, and have multiple widgets stacked on top of each other. So basically, I almost don't need to go into the weather app anymore because of that. So I think it's really neat how Apple really thought this through and gave developers the tools to create these really cool widgets. I think another one that really takes advantage of that is Fantastical's widget came out this last week. Great widget. I'm really liking it. I've got the date right up front with a little weather thing in the corner. And then if you dig deeper into that stack, you'll find like what's coming up today, calendar view, things like that. And then the fact that I can take widgets that, I don't really want showing on the front screen of my, or right on my home page all the time, that I can kind of bury those in the stack so that I can kind of flip through the stack and take a look at that widget. So it gives me a ton of flexibility to have so many different things in one widget and be able to hide stuff. Like I started using, and I don't know, trying to lose weight and trying to find different ways to accomplish that. And I'm using Zero for fasting, for intermittent fasting. And I set a timer this morning for 6 hours because I'm just going to not eat until, I'm going to skip lunch and eat later because I had a big breakfast and I had a bowl of cereal after breakfast. And so I've had plenty to eat this morning. But being able to have that right on my home screen to remind me, hey, don't eat. Wait until you got this much time left until you're done with your fast was kind of a neat way to handle that as well. The only one I'm missing yet is OmniFocus. I'm really looking forward to OmniFocus getting a widget up. I don't know, the functionality is so limited that I almost think that they have to have like just a series of links to your different lists or perspectives or whatever. So, I have a perspective called Today. I've got a perspective called Orders, a perspective called Money, just different things, different areas of my life that I'm trying to keep track of, that it would be nice to have that widget there so that if I want to go check what I've got to do for work today, I can just tap work and it'll take me right to all the stuff that I need to be looking at for work, or the forecast view, not today view, the forecast view, to be able to go straight to that. So I think that is a solution for what OmniFocus can do, because really with their old widget, I know they wanted to make it so that you could check off tasks right from that widget, and it worked pretty well, and hopefully that'll be able to come back in the future, because that was pretty convenient. But being able to just get to your lists rather quickly might be a really cool thing as well. So we'll see what they do with that. I'm excited. I don't know how they don't come out with a widget, so we'll see what happens with that. I think one thing that I've really started to use more is the Today view in iOS 14. Because of the widgets, for you to swipe over to the left and go to that page that's off to the left that was always where the widgets were jailed there. I didn't really use that a whole lot before, maybe just for a little quick information or something like that, but I didn't really use that a lot before. I find myself using that a lot more now, because if I want to put like a bigger widget, you know, you can get like the big widgets for different things. Like maybe you want to have a big widget for the weather, or a big widget for your calendar app, or something like that. You can get a widget in there that doesn't take up all of your screen real estate for all of your app icons over there. So because I'm really loving all these widgets, I have a bunch of widgets in the Today view so that they're off to the side. They're not blocking everything up. But when I do want to look at them, I can just swipe over to the left and take a look at that. So I think the Today view is something that I've been using a lot more with the widgets than I was before. So I think something that's really not been covered a whole lot with iOS 14 is the update to CarPlay. So later on, I'm going to talk about what's delighting me. And my wife and I bought a new car here in the actually it was a week ago today. And it has Apple CarPlay in it. And that was one of my must-haves. I really wanted this feature in the car. But rather than, I'm going to save the car till later, but I want to talk about CarPlay a little bit right now. CarPlay, you know, the old car that I had, we had the ability to do like Bluetooth audio through the infotainment system. And that was cool. You know, you get into the car, it connects to the car. You're able to play your stuff through there and use the on steering wheel buttons to kind of control different things. But I still had my phone up on the dash, up on a mount, so that I could still see, you know, Apple Maps, or I could see, you know, anything I really wanted to see up there, I could see up there. But with CarPlay, it puts it right on the screen, so that now my phone is actually sitting on the console in between the seats, just connected by a wire. I don't have wireless, but it's connected by the wire, and it connects right to the infotainment system that way. And now I can control everything on my phone right on that 7.5-inch screen in the middle. And it's awesome. I really like it. It works really well. The apps that are available for it that I use most often, Overcast is a big one. Music is a big one. Audible is a big one. I wish Audible would do one thing a little differently with theirs. When I listen to my audiobooks, I'm less concerned about my total time in the audiobook as I am about my chapters, you know, where I'm at in a chapter. And maybe that's different from the way most people handle it, but I like being able to see where I'm at in the chapter and being able to go in and say, you know what, I fell asleep last night in the middle of chapter 16, so I want to go back and start at the beginning of 16 and listen through that chapter. CarPlay doesn't make that available. It just shows me where I'm at in the book. So, you know, if by like some, you know, miracle somebody from Audible is listening today, I would like it if you would do that, because that would be very convenient. And now maybe they don't have the hooks to be able to do that, but right now what I'm doing is I've got to pick up my phone out of the console, and of course I'm stopped and I'm not moving yet. But I'm sitting there looking at my phone, setting it up, and then I put the phone down and then go. And that it would be nice to not have to do it that way. So the MLB app, the NHL app are available, which I think are pretty cool. So I can listen to my Brewers play. Of course, hockey for me at least. I'm a fairly big Wild fan. Is over for the season. I think they're still playing the Stanley Cup, or they're still in the Stanley Cup Finals. But I don't really listen to that part of it so much. But one thing I'm kind of disappointed with is that the NFL doesn't have a CarPlay app. I can certainly listen to a football game through it if I want to pay for Game Pass, which I don't think I would get. I don't get $100 worth of use out of that, which it's $100 a year for that. Where the Major League Baseball makes just the audio portion available for $20 a year, which I can stomach $20 a year for that, but $100 a year. And basically what they do is they throw everything all into one package, which I might be tempted by if they would make the live games available for video, for watching, which they do not do that at this point, which I'm really disappointed in. If I could do that, then I wouldn't have to upgrade my Hulu package to watch football, that is what I'm doing now. And then I would also have the audio for when I'm on the road, because my wife and I are going to be taking a trip for Thanksgiving this year, and to be able to listen to the football game on the way home, which I don't think that's a night game anyway. So unless we get a real late start coming home, I don't know that I'm going to be able to listen to the game on the way back. But that would be a cool feature, and I would really enjoy that. But they are just kind of like this anomaly when it comes to the different sports apps as far as how accessible they are. So, and I'm sure it all has to do with contracts with the TV stations and all that kind of stuff. But whatever. NFL, get your head out of your butts. The one new feature, there's two big marquee new features with the CarPlay in iOS 14, and that's being able to set wallpapers, which I think is a cool feature, and I was kind of on the fence with whether or not this was really a cool feature or not, but then I put the black background up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a cool feature, because really the black background kind of makes it look a little too much like the old, like, creaky, typical car manufacturer looking, like, infotainment systems. Obviously it has the apps and everything on there that it would normally have, but I just looked at that and I'm like, that just looks old and creaky. I want something that has a little color to it. And so I did put a colored background on there, and it looks great. So I'm happy with that. The other thing is a new tiled view that they have for CarPlay, and what that does is it kind of puts a larger map version there, or a larger maps screen, so that you can see where you are on the map, and if you're using turn-by-turn directions, you can see all of that. And then there's three kind of wide tiles on the side, almost like your medium widget. Along the side, top one gives you your directions, so where your next turn is, how far your next turn is away from you. The middle one is your audio controls, and then your bottom one, for some weird reason, has calendar appointment. What? Like, I don't check my calendar when I'm on the road, and maybe for somebody that does their business out of their car, maybe that's a thing, but that seems like a kind of a niche thing to be able to put there. I think for some reason I feel like maybe somebody was sitting in Cupertino or wherever at Apple Park, and they were thinking, oh, what could we add in that bottom section? And instead of saying, well, maybe we only need 2 sections there, and we can put a little larger album artwork or something like that for whatever's playing or whatever. Instead, they're like, oh, let's put the calendar on there because that makes sense. And then it's not customizable from what I can tell. So it would be nice, Apple, if you're listening, to put some customization in that area to be able to choose what's in those different tiles. At least the 3 on the right-hand side to say that this is what I want it to look like, or to be able to eliminate one if I want to be able to get a little larger section for my audio that's playing. I think that would be really cool. So, but CarPlay overall, I love it. I think it works really great. The infotainment system that we have in the new car is pretty capable. I'm not unhappy with it. It's a lot better than the car systems that I have in the past. The old Ford Sync system that was in my last car was okay. I mean, it served its purpose, but this one has way more features and is a lot nicer. So maybe can talk about that a little bit when we get into what's delighting me today. But I did want to touch on a subject that I feel like Cam might have a lot to say about it, because there is a lot to be said about it, but at the same time, like, I don't really want to spend a lot of time on the show talking about it, but it is something that is definitely relevant right now, and that's politics. I am about the least... Okay, so years ago, I'll start out with this. Years ago, I was really into politics, and I think that for the most part, I think it really made me a terrible person. I didn't like the person that I was when I was really paying attention to the politics. I really struggled with just how much hatred there seems to be in politics. And so, like, I really felt, trying to come up with the right word, I really felt kind of cast away or exiled or like abandoned by the Republican Party. And I used to consider myself to be more conservative and more of a Republican, but the Republicans are terrible. They have become a party of just awfulness. And before you jump on me and say, well, maybe I don't like the Democrats either, quite honestly, because when it comes down to it, neither one of those parties represents what I am, or what I believe. To get off on this whole, like, well, you just got to pick the lesser of two evils. And if you're picking the lesser of two evils, they're still evil. I don't understand why that's okay in our culture to say, well, I agree more with this guy, but I don't like this guy as much. You still don't like things about them. So why is the country so afraid of having other parties in the mix? Why don't we let these other parties have more exposure? It's not just because of that I've self-identified as a libertarian for so many years, and I think we've talked about that on past episodes, where I kind of feeling like they don't really represent me that much anymore either, or that maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe they do represent me, but I think I mentioned a couple episodes back that and I'll just give an aside here for libertarianism. I think the general belief within libertarianism is that people should have the right to do what they want as long as they're not hurting other people. And that gives an air, and that gives an air of trust to people that they can be responsible and do the right thing. Since the beginning of all this COVID stuff, that has been proven wrong over and over and over and over again. That people can't be responsible. They can't be trusted because they get into this whole tribalism thing where no matter what is right, no matter what they think in their head might be right, if their, tribe leader, so to speak, says, oh no, it's like this, then they find a way to justify stupidity. And that is my biggest gripe with the way politics is done today. You know what? Trump is wrong. Biden is wrong. I don't agree with either one of these. I can't say that word. they're just wrong. They're both evil people that are power hungry and want this power to, I don't know, to whatever, And I would love to say, well, I think it's the money. These guys, all they want is the money. But I don't think the money's the thing for them either. I think it's all about the power that they wield. So I don't think that taking and eliminating power or eliminating the money from the system really is going to solve anything. I think that could help when you start looking at the House and the Senate. If we were to de-incentivize that or even make them volunteers, I think that would help a lot towards getting good people in there that want to do good things instead of just, idiots that are power hungry and want to control everything. And maybe we'd still have that problem anyway, because that's just people. But I think that having more voices in the conversation definitely would help in the long term. Even if that's, having the Green Party have a voice in it, and having the Libertarian Party having a voice in it, having the whatever the Christian Coalition is, I don't even know, but having them have a voice in the debates and have a voice in politics. This country has gone from, and I'm not even going to say that it was originally a Christian nation, because I don't believe that was the case anyway. You hear that in the churches a lot, and a lot of the older folks in our churches believe that we were once a Christian nation. And I don't buy that, because when you start looking back at what was going on when this country was founded and why we originally came over here. Yes, we came over here, and a lot of people came over here to escape religious persecution. Catholicism and stuff like that was huge in a lot of the countries over in Europe, and people wanted to escape that oppression so that they could worship the way they wanted to. Leading a lot of that charge. And when you start looking at the revolution, at our forefathers and the Revolutionary War and the people that were involved in that, you see a lot of Freemasons that were involved in that. And of course, Freemasonry really believes that you should have the right to believe what you want to believe, and that liberty is the key. We should have the right to do what we want to do as long as we're not hurting others. I think that really was the idea that was behind the founding of our country. So is that a bad thing for us right now? I really have a hard time saying that that it would be a good thing for us to go to that, just because of the lessons that we've learned this last year. That people can't be trusted to do the right thing. Just take masks, for instance. We're in Wisconsin here. We're a few weeks out from the mask mandate. And early on, people were wearing masks, and, we still had the jerks that just were like, I'm not going to do that because it's stupid. Yeah, it's inconvenient for sure. But, you can go back and listen. I think it's episode 6 or 7 where we talked about masks. But I think that when we look at that, and, people, they do whatever they want to, and they don't take other people into consideration. And that is one of the core issues with having true liberty in the United States. Man, I didn't expect this rant to go this way. But from a political standpoint, I think the government just doesn't get where we should be and what we should be doing. And am I going to try and get involved in that to try and change things? No, because it's not going to make any difference. They're still going to do what they do. And so we're just going to keep going along doing what we do. And I guess, the one solace in all of this is when we look at the Bible and we look at what the Bible says about our leaders, it says that God puts these leaders in place over us and we're to obey them. Unless what they ask us to do goes against our beliefs. It goes against our Bible. And so that's the one caveat in that. But really, you know what? if the government wants me to drive 55 on a county road, I can live with that. If they want us to drive 70 on the highway, I can live with that. If they want us to wear a mask when we're in public, it's probably a good idea. It's probably not going to hurt anybody. It's not going to hurt me, unless like I'm working the truck at work and I can't breathe, which happens. So I'm going to do what's best for me in that situation, but then try to protect the others as best I can, if I am in contact with other people during that time as well. So I'm just going to tell you that this election really has come down for me that it's not going to change anything for the better. That's honestly how I feel. If Biden gets in office, if Trump gets in office or stays in office, I don't think that there's really any consequence for our country. They're going to make it sound like there's a ton of consequence for what happens in this country. But I don't think ultimately, unless really, let's be honest, the power is wielded in Congress. The president has some power, but the Congress really is, the House of Representatives and the Senate really are the ones that have the power. And if that goes mainly left wing, then we're going to probably be looking, and I apologize because this is always an argument with this, but we are going to be slipping more towards socialism. If the Republicans control Congress, then we'll be shifting more towards more authoritarian or more democratic views for the most part. I think the one thing that would be different is if we had a different Republican up for election this year. I would think more towards Democratic, but I think when you look at Trump and how he's led, I think he's pushed a little bit more towards some authoritarianism, but not to a dangerous degree. Understand, I'm not saying that we're going to be looking at having a dictatorship anytime soon, but I think you do see a little bit more of his like I'm in control kind of attitude, and I don't have anything to really back that up because quite honestly, I hate the news and I don't pay that much attention to it. But as far as politics go, I think this election really doesn't mean nearly so much as what they're trying to drum it up. And quite honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to vote. I don't like any of my options right now. If I do vote, maybe I vote for Joe Jorgensen, the Libertarian candidate. But as my mother would like to remind me, I love my mom, but why waste your vote? Well, if I vote for Trump, it's wasted. If I vote for Biden, I'll hate myself. And if I vote for the Libertarian Party, I feel like I'm at least doing something that is clear in my conscience to do. So, and hopefully we can move the needle with some of these third parties to get them more involved. But quite honestly, I'm really tired of the options that we've been given. So if I haven't made that clear by now, that's a thing. So anyway, let's positive this all up now, now that I've had my rants. So what's delighting me this week? I am super excited about one thing that has really changed for me over the course of the last few months. And I may have touched on this a little bit here and there with some of the things that I've talked about on the show, but for so many years, when my wife and I would make decisions and we would be looking at making large purchases or anything like that, and this probably even goes more granular to just looking for direction and where we should go and what we should be doing. I think that in the last year or 2 years, we have really put a lot of focus on drawing closer to God in so many aspects of our life. And for a lot of years, my wife and I just really struggled financially because we sucked at making good decisions. And I think that my wife probably just laughed when she was listening to this episode because we were just bad at it. we would really follow our emotions into decisions, and that's the worst thing you can do. I got stories from my timeshare sales that I can tell you about that. But we made bad decisions because we made so many of our decisions from the standpoint of being emotional about them. I have worked really hard for a lot of years to try and get better at that. And the key really that it came down to was really figuring out how to trust God. And I have to tell you that when it comes to my relationship with God, I haven't really gotten anything easy. I grew up a really rebellious kid, and my mom can tell you stories. I struggled a lot with just being rebellious and wanting to fight the system and wanting to be different, and of course I wanted to be different like everybody else. I love that line, by the way, because it cracks me up. I really struggled for a long time with trusting God with things. And that's something that as I've drawn closer to God and learned more about Him has gotten amazingly easier. Now, it's not easy. Trust me, it's not easy. But it's gotten easier over the years. Being able to look at my situation and say, hey, you know what? God's got this. We're all right. We're going to be okay. God's in control of this. There's no reason for us to be upset. We're going to be all right. And you know what? The crazy thing is we have been. Things have been good. I have spent so much time worrying about the concerns of life and what's going to happen next and all this stuff. And if I'd have known this years ago, that I could just trust God and not be worried about every little thing that happens in life, man, my life would have been so much easier. But I can sometimes be a little late bloomer because I trust myself a little bit too much. And so as we've had to make a lot of decisions, and my wife and I pray for direction every morning. We basically do a short devotional together every morning. We'll read a chapter of the Bible. We'll pray together. And one thing we pray about every morning is, Lord, give us direction. Give us something, help that direction to be clear. And when we have a major purchase coming up, that's something that I pray really strongly. Lord, make it so clear that I can't do the wrong thing, that I can't walk away from this decision. Or if I'm supposed to walk away from this decision, make it so hard to not walk away from that decision, or to walk away, or you know what I mean. Make it so hard to do the wrong thing that I do the right thing each time. And so I have learned to trust Him and to make these decisions based on Him. And I think one of the first ones, we talked about my new iMac a few weeks back. Man, I agonized over this decision. I'm taking this on myself, and my business expenses are paying for this. And I struggled really with this decision as to whether or not to get this iMac. This is the most money I've ever paid for a computer in my life, and I'll buy a lot. And so looking at, spending this kind of money and having a monthly payment on something like this for the next year that I've got to make sure that I pay every month, it's a considerable amount of money for me, and I was worried about this decision, and I was anxious about this decision for a long time, but I knew I needed it to do what I'm doing, do the work that I'm doing. And so and my wife can attest to this, I just agonized over making this decision. And finally one morning in church, the very last passage that the pastor went to had something to do with, and I'm not going to be able to quote it perfectly, but it had something to do with, don't be anxious, trust in me. And it was exactly what I needed to hear. And so I said, all right, I'm going to trust you. I bought the computer immediately, pretty much at that point. And then I went and told my wife, and that went fine. She was fine with it because she knew I was really agonizing over the decision and just wanted to make the best decision that I could make. So, but yeah, and you know what? This computer has been amazing. And what's funny is I would make a decision like this years ago before, we put this kind of work into making the right decision. And I would find myself having like buyer's remorse afterwards and just hurting, like just being so anxious about the decision. By the way, it's really a lot nicer to be anxious before you make the decision than afterwards, because there's not a whole lot you can do about it afterwards. But sitting there after I made this decision on this computer, getting the computer, and then sitting here and looking at the computer and not feeling any kind of remorse or guilt or anxious or anxiety. I was going to say anxiousness, but that's not the right word. Anxiety or anything like that was so it was like a breath of fresh air. And, with all of us wearing masks, so we know how much we appreciate a breath of fresh air now. It was so freeing to make my decisions this way. And so we looked at buying this car, and I was looking at used vehicles. We bought a Jeep Renegade, not an inexpensive vehicle to start. But at the same time, I had my list of things that I wanted on the vehicle. I wanted to make sure we got Apple CarPlay on it. I wanted to make sure that my next vehicle was a vehicle that I could drive in the winter if the winter went year round. Like if we got snow all the time, which would be awful. But if we got snow all the time, this vehicle would be solid and would get me where I need to go, and it would be comfortable. So I wanted to make sure that this vehicle was the perfect vehicle for Wisconsin winters. And that maybe not, it has to be perfect, but it was going to be good for that. So I wanted a winter weather package on it. My wife mentioned that she wanted heated seats, which... so we looked into that, and we did end up getting a vehicle with heated seats. I like the Jeep Renegade because of the size. I don't like a big car, but this one, offered me the 4-wheel drive, the select terrain system that we could shift around how the car drove for the conditions. And so I was pretty excited about the fact that it had something like that we could use. And so when it snows this winter and I have to be out in it, I can switch it over to snow, and it'll help, direct the power to the wheels that aren't slipping and help me to have the traction I need to move about. So, very cool there. And the heated seats, the heated steering wheel, which, it came with the package, but it might be nice. We'll see how it is. The de-icing windshield wipers seemed really cool. I like the thought of that. There's just a lot of cool stuff in this vehicle that I'm excited about. And I haven't fallen in love with a new vehicle like this in my life. This has been cool. And they've always warned you, don't buy new, buy used. So, we did a lot of looking at used vehicles and not really finding exactly what we wanted. And so we went into the dealership and talked to them, and we ended up buying a new vehicle, not because the salesman was cool, but not because of him. But because the dealers' incentives that they offered us, the discounts that they offered us, I mean, we paid the same amount of money that we would have paid for that same vehicle if it was a year or two old and it was used. So we're actually saving a little bit of money on our insurance. There were some good things that came out of this, So having this new vehicle, knowing that we put the prayer into it, that we made the decisions based on more rational, logical ideas instead of trying to, getting real emotional about those decisions and making bad decisions that way. I feel really good about that decision. And now that I have the car, I love it. It worked. It's so nice. I've never had a vehicle this nice before. And we've always kind of went to the lot and found the thing that there was a vehicle when I bought my Dodge Caliber over 10 years ago now. When I bought that vehicle, I knew what I wanted, but I did make a lot of compromises when I found one. And that one had almost no options on it. When we replaced that, we pretty much bought what was on the lot that was anyway close to a price range that we wanted. And, we made a lot of compromises in that situation. By the way, I wasn't unhappy with any of those vehicles. I would have liked some of the bells and whistles that I got on the that I could have gotten on other vehicles, but this is the first time we went in with a thought, okay, these are the options that we want. Here's what we're looking for. If this car doesn't fit these needs, we're not going to buy it. After putting a lot of prayer into it, we felt really good about this decision, and I still feel really good about this decision. So what's delighting me? It's really the idea that you can trust God, and you can know that if you really put the faith in him to make the right decisions, it can be so much easier and so much less crazy. All the times that I made decisions years ago, whether we said, well, I hope God likes it, and then we just went off and did whatever we wanted to, or maybe, I got to make this decision quick before I feel like I can't, this is the wrong decision. We justify all kinds of ways to make dumb decisions. But being able to just sit back and make a good decision on something that we can be proud of what we've done was just really neat. So it was really good. So that's what's delighting me over the last few weeks. So what's not delighting me is I don't have Cam here to help me out. So I don't have things like chess that I can talk to him about.
I don't want to talk about it, Mitch. I don't want to talk about it.
But I love that. But I don't have a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things that we really couldn't talk about today. So I hope that my rant was good for you guys. If it wasn't, well, Cam will be back on the next episode. But anyway, you can find more information on the podcast at innerdialogue.show. That's innerdialogue.show. And if you want to hit me up on Twitter, you can find me at Mitch Craig. And Cam, where's your Twitter at?
I'm at Cam Brennan.
And I had all these great, I couldn't find a place to put them, but I pulled all these great audio clips. I
had a similar incident with a hamster.
Yeah, I wanted to find a place to throw that one in there, but I thought that was pretty funny. So, but Cam's not here to say something to get my ire at the end of the show. So, I really appreciate you guys listening. If you could do one big thing for us, go to iTunes or Overcast or wherever you get your podcasts and favorite us, give us a 5-star rating, let people know that you like the podcast. The podcast has been growing very slowly, but growing a little at a time. And I think we're really proud of where it's been going. And I really like that. And if you find yourself wanting to throw a little bit of love at Cam for having to put up with me,
I've learned my lesson, Mitch.
And you can always hit him up on Twitter.
I'm at Cam Brennan.
Yep, you can do that. So
true.
Yep. So please let us know how you think about the show, how you like the show.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh.
That wasn't really that funny, but I just had to use some of these clips that I pulled. All right. Well, we'll see you back here next time. Cam will be back on the show with us, so I don't have to pay awful clips of him. So thanks for listening. You guys have a great couple weeks.